The race for playoff qualification went right the way down to the very last few minutes of the last game. My name is Mark. Okay, so first off, apologies for the lateness of this one. Normally I'd aim to get it up probably on Monday if things are going really well on Sunday. So Tuesday is a little bit late. I have been working a lot on the Leinster video that I promised that I'm going to try and get out this week. It's a mammoth task at the moment. Like I spent, over the last 4 days, maybe 30 hours or more, probably more than 30 hours working on it. So, I got it into a position where, I've got all the stuff that I need for it, but now I need to collate it together into an actual video. So, it's coming along. I'm not going to guarantee when it's going to come out, but, I did promise it for this week, but there's no, I want it to be right because it's something that I've worked on for, since this channel has begun. Like, I've tried to make that video a few times before and I wasn't happy with them and deleted them. So I want this one to be right. I want it to be in a position where I can release it. So hopefully, I'm working away at that. I'm happy with the progress I'm making, but that's I'll talk a bit more about that at the end of that video once I actually have it and I have it with you guys. So let's come back to this one. The round 18 of the URC, final round of the regular season. 11 teams still in with a chance to make those playoffs. Some of them dropped out as the weekend progressed, but it did actually go right down to the last game, which is amazing. It just shows how competitive this league was this year. And at certain times, the top four as well, through their games, teams are in first, they were in fourth, that kind of thing happening to pretty much each of the teams all the way through as well, which is, again, just shows how much tighter it has been this year compared to last year's. We're going to go down through each of the games that happened over the weekend. We're going to have a look at the table and then just a very quick look at the quarterfinal lineup as well. We'll look more on that when we do a preview of the quarterfinals, which will come out either tomorrow, Wednesday, or more than likely on Thursday. We'll do that preview then. So we won't spend too much time on that, but we will go through a few minutes on each of our games. So we're going to start with the Friday games. Leinster 33, Connacht 3. There's a full review of this game on the channel. If you're interested, you can go and check it out. So it was the last game in the RDS before it gets redeveloped. And it's one thing as well, people talk about the this system in Ireland, especially in Leinster, and how it's kind of supporting the team and giving them an advantage as well. But something as well as we're looking at the crisis in Wales where there seems to be no funding for players, whereas we're seeing each of the provinces in Ireland investing in their stadiums over the last few years and kind of future-proofing things as well, and making sure that they're going to get that extra revenue in there to help them in terms of pushing for that growth in terms of getting more fans through the door and getting more revenue in the coffers as well, so that they're going to be in a better position in the future, to have some money in the bank or wherever to ride out something like the COVID again, if it does happen at some point again in the future. So, the ODS redevelopment is part of that. We got Dexcom over in Galway. Thomond Park is just an amazing stadium that Munster have built up a few years ago, and then Kingspan as well. They got a new pitch, which I'm not sure was maybe they're going to see the benefit of that themselves. But hopefully there's more investment in that stadium too, in terms of, just making it a better place for fans to go as well. But let's get back to this game. So Leinster opened the scoring. Conan just batters his way over to score from the back of the scrum. He did really well, great strength to get over there. Then a great move off the top of the line out. We got Frawley and Prendergast with good involvements in that, and Jimmy O'Brien is over to score. Then Conan with a great line coming onto a flat pass, gets through a gap, pushes on through contact, then pops a pass to Frawley, who scores. Sheehan over after peeling off a maul for the bonus point try. Then Connor Oliver and Jennings combining well down the wing. Great pace from Jennings and some really good work from Oliver. 2 involvements from him, and then he puts Riley over for Connacht's solitary try. Jimmy O'Brien then, there's a nice pass over the top to find him in space on the wing, and then he spots a gap between 2 Connacht defenders. I think Hawkshaw was one of them, and he just received treatment, so maybe he was kind of hobbling around a bit, but O'Brien goes sailing through that gap anyway and over to score. And that was the final try of the game. So Leinster 33, Connacht 7. Connacht weren't really at the races, honestly, in this one, and they really do need to improve for next year. Too inconsistent this year. It is a new coaching team in there, albeit some of them part of the old regime, but still, new head man has new ideas, whether he was the number 2 before or not. And the hope is that they'll be more cohesive next season. Leinster, attack actually looked more fluid than it has for a while. Really clicking. Not overall, not like an amazing performance from the team, but you can see that certainly the standard was better than we've seen for a lot of the season, especially in this period of the season where they're kind of fallen away a bit. Some players as well putting their hands up to basically say that, if the first string aren't delivering, we're ready to step up and do that job as well. So that's good to see in terms of just the performance of the wider squad. Weren't many players, that involved that actually started. I think Frawley was the only one that started the Champions Cup final that was actually involved in this one. But some of the wider squad or the players who were on the bench in that one doing really well in this one as well. Next game then was Glasgow 38, Zebre 26. So Glasgow produce a maul try early on. They get great momentum. They go over, and it's Batty is the score. They then produce another one, and this time it's Matthews who scores that one. Zebre then with 3 penalties in the first half. They're hanging on in there, and then just before half time, Trula tiptoes his way through the Glasgow defence, gives it to Bruno. He offloads to Montemari, and he scores in the corner, and Zebre in the lead at the break. And that wasn't on the script for Glasgow, who were trying to get up there, potentially to in the top couple in the league at least. Tuipulotu then, he showed really great strength, shrugs off a tackle, then breaks the line, and then he puts Rowe over to score. Zebre then there on attack. Glasgow turn it over and look like they're about to break, but then Darge throws an intercept to Stabil Bravin, and he just has an easy run in to score. Next then we have a lovely pass to Witt from Doby into 22, and Cancellieri scores. Glasgow then, that maul is just so efficient. Zebre, they're trying to sack it a couple of times, but they keep breaking off and just kind of rolling a little bit to the right, and they're just going forward all the time, and Zebre can't reset the defence to stop them. And then this season's URC top try scorer Johnny Matthews goes over for his 14th try of the season. Great performance from him. We're seeing this a lot, in recent years, that hooker behind a decent maul is probably going to be the top try scorer. Then Ferry's inside ball puts Jordan over for the try that pretty much seals the victory for Glasgow. But Zebre more competitive than they normally are on their travels. Last game of the season certainly would they want to put in a bit of an effort, and they really put it up to Glasgow as well on that one. They recruited well for this season, in the off season last year. And, I think we're probably going to see more improvement from them next year as well. We can see that they're a team on the up despite, their league position. Glasgow really made it work for the win, but they came up with the scores when it counted. The maul, it's a real weapon, but it's not the only one in their arsenal as well. And, getting a win like this as well, it's good for them going into the knockout stages too, but they've got to be able to now, continue with that, and when the pressure comes on, be able to still play the rugby and score the points. Next time we have Stormers 29, Lions 24. So early penalty, and Lions are in front. I think it was Hendricks that was actually kicking for them today instead of, Nahamba has been kicking for most of the season. Then Stormers go to the maul from 5-metre line out. They break off and Benter goes over to score. Really well worked score from them. Hendricks then with another penalty for the Lions, and then he then produces a great long pass over the top to Horn, who scores in the corner. Lebok then puts Feinberg and Gonmazulu through a gap close to the line. He offloads to Davids, who scores in the corner. Lions then hit back through their maul. Pretorius is the scorer of this one. And then something that could have turned the game, like Davids gets a red card for a high tackle. For me, it was a deserved red as well. But then Stormers, they're down to 14 men for the rest of the game, but Evan Ruse just produced an absolutely brilliant try. Shrugs off a would-be tackler, maybe around the 10-metre line, I think. Then just storms through the middle of the defence. He's fending people off. He's showing great pace and strength and finishes under the post. Just one of those tries that belongs in any highlight reel you can fit it in. That one's going to be in there, which is just so good. Lions, though, they're keeping their noses in front thanks to penalties from Hendrickse. Stormers then go over from close range with just a few minutes on the clock. We have a TMO check, and the winning score from Smith is confirmed. Really tight finish to this game. And, Lions just about edging it. Stormers just about edging it. But Lions, they did have a chance to qualify for the playoffs, but they couldn't manage those last few minutes of the game when the Stormers came at them. And that's something, that they'll want to address, I think, for next year. That ability to see out a game, when it's tight and when you're just about leading. The Lions as well, they used to be a big force back in the day in Super Rugby. I remember, I think I talked to somebody about this in the comments as well. I used to do some writing for a website called Green and Gold Rugby, which is like an Australian fan website. And I used to do like reports, not much, but reports for Six Nations games and that kind of thing back in the day, like in kind of the mid 2010s, like from about 2015 to 2018, 19, kind of the time when I was living in Japan. But because of that, it got me interested into Super Rugby, and I saw around that time the Lions were one of the best teams in Super Rugby, but never actually, I don't think they lifted the title during that period. I think they got to like 3 finals on the bounce though, kind of similar to Leinster. That's why we were talking about it in it. But you can see that this team now, this Lions team, it feels like they're building up again to reach those kind of levels too. So I think they're a team to really keep an eye on for next year. Stormers finding a way to win despite the red card. And, that's the kind of performance that's going to fill them with confidence ahead of those playoffs. And, it might actually be 3 finals on the bounce for them in the URC. And, if they get to another final, they've already won it once. Who says they can't win it again? Next time we have Benetton 31, Edinburgh 6. So Edinburgh pressing early, and Issacore actually goes to the bin in the first minute, but crucially, Edinburgh, they can't get over to score during that period. Brex then makes a break, lovely fend on Duhan van der Merwe, and then he puts Mendy over to score. Edinburgh though hit the front thanks to a couple of penalties from Ben Healy. Then they're on the attack and, looking to create space out in the wing. an ill-judged offload goes right to Ratave, and he just has a simple run in from halfway, and now Benetton are back in front. Then Menoncello with a good carry, offload from the floor to Albornoz, who just goes through a gap and goes over to score. Edinburgh then throwing the ball around under pressure, and it goes to ground. Menoncello gets there first, breaks into 22, couple of quick recycles, and Issaquah is over to score. Then we have a bit of pinball from a high kick, and the ball somehow finds its way to Issaquah, and he just has a simple run in on the right to score. And that was kind of the end of the game. And, it was supposed to be a, big showdown between these two. Winner was going to qualify for the, for the playoffs. So I thought it was going to be a tight game, but, Benetton, they got the noses in front, and then they just applied the pressure to Edinburgh. And Edinburgh kind of cracked under that pressure. Yeah, and like Edinburgh, really, they shot themselves in the foot a few times during the game, and the form, has fallen off in the latter part of the season yet again. Last year as well, started the season well and then fell off in the second half. And it's, something for next year they're going to have to look at, trying to time their runs so they're hitting form at this time of the season. Like, it's the teams who are in form now who are the ones going into those playoffs, and the ones going into the playoffs with confidence as well. But Edinburgh, if they can put it, keep that decent first half of the season the way they've been doing, but then build up their performance so they're actually improving through the season and not falling away. Let's see though how they go next season. Benetton, they've had a very impressive season. I think it would have been a bit of a tragedy if they didn't make the playoffs, having been second in the league at one point. And the thing is, though, they've got to be more consistent if they're going to go beyond those quarterfinals. So let's see how they do in their quarterfinal. Next then, Scarlets 32, Dragons 15. So this was probably the only game actually of the weekend that had nothing but pride riding on it. Will Reid puts the Dragons ahead from the tee before Costello then ties it up with a penalty for Scarlets. Then Scarlets go to their maul. Dragons defending it well initially, but then Scarlets go again. You have a Timo check, and then it's a try for Matthias. Eddie James gets a yellow card for a high hit on Owen. Then we have good work from Lousy in the build-up to a Dan Davis score, and Scarlets beginning to take control of the game now. Then Tommy Lewis collects an intercept to pretty much seal the deal for them. Good Hands then puts Lewis over for a second and a bonus point try for Scarlets. Then Tompkinson with a couple of consolation tries for the Dragons late on. Dragons, just about avoided finishing bottom of the league, but they haven't picked up a match point in such a long time, and there's big improvements needed if they're not going to be at the foot of the table for the bulk of next season, because we talked about already that Zebre look like there's improvement coming from them. So Dragons, they can't just stay at the same level, and even a slight improvement still mightn't be enough for them to avoid maybe a wooden spoon next year. Di Flanagan, I talked about it many times. They had a bit of a bounce for a few months when he came in, but we haven't seen like long-term improvement from this side under his leadership. So maybe next year will be make or break for him in that position. Scarlets again, they're showing the signs of a team that could the team that they could be, but they don't do it often enough, and especially against non-Welsh opposition as well. There's definitely potential there, but it's going to take hard work, I think, to unlock that. And maybe if they can get one or two players in there as well with a bit more, some kind of experience on nous in terms of being able to deliver under pressure as well. Next then we have Sharks 14, Bulls 26. So Bulls overthrow a 5-meter defensive lineout. Steenkamp for them, though, he gets the loose ball first, but then just throws a loose pass to no one, and then Masaku picks it up very happily and dives over to score for the Sharks. Then we have good work from Willie LaRue in the build-up as Creel scores in the corner for the Bulls. Bulls then go to the maul from 5 metres out. They roll it well to keep momentum, and then they shear off the defence. Grobler is the score. Sharks, they're pounding away at the line. Looks like a try is definitely coming, but then a big hit dislodges the ball. It's recycled by the Bulls on their own line, given back to Houston, who dinks the ball from behind his own try line to the edge of the 22. Kanan Moody gets to the bouncing ball first, and then he's just screaming up the pitch. Looks like it's going to be an absolute whirly of a try, but then he gets scragged about 5 metres from the line by Fassi, who ran him down. And then that actually comes to nothing, although I think there was a penalty to the Bulls, and they went to the corner. She took it, went to the bin as well for his involvement in that, I think, slowing the ball down, but Bulls couldn't actually get over. Then Papier snipes to within a metre of the line before Van der Merwe goes over to score. And then Richardson, really good job standing up a tackler, spins out of another tackle and over to score for the Sharks. But you can already tell like that, Bulls are kind of taking charge of things, and Van der Merwe with a maul try to finish the job off for the Bulls. So I said it beforehand that Sharks, after their efforts in the final of the Challenge Cup, maybe wouldn't be too concerned about whether they win or lose this one. It was going to be more of a celebration, whereas Bulls had a lot more riding on the game. I think that was the difference between the teams in this one. Sharks, they did get to parade the Challenge Cup in front of the fans after the game, and what a great achievement from them as well. First South African side to win a European trophy, and hopefully we're going to see more South African sides getting to finals and lifting trophies in those competitions as well, especially in the Champions Cup. And that has earned the Sharks qualification for Champions Cup next year as well, meaning that maybe their poor URC form didn't matter as much, but still, URC is your bread and butter. You can't be performing as badly as they did with the squad that they have this year. Next year now, they'll have to find, I think, form earlier on in the season. And, they've got some big names, but I think the other South African teams probably have better squads, in my opinion at least. And if you look at performance, I think it kind of it is kind of proven as well by especially how well the Bulls and the Stormers have done in the URC. And I think those other teams as well perform better when the Springboks are not available to them too. I think that has a bigger impact on the Sharks than the others. The Bulls, they wanted to win more, and they timed their run really well once again. They seem to come into form right at the best part of the season, going into those playoffs. And now, can they go all the way this year is the big question for them. Next time we have Munster 29, Ulster 24. So Snyman uses just inhumanly long arms to stretch out and score on the line. I don't know how the guy did it. He's just got go-go gadget arms or whatever to be able to put the ball down. But some might argue that he was very lucky to still be on the field after a dangerous clear out that, was adjudged to be just a penalty. But I thought at least, deserved 10 minutes in the bin. Herring then goes over from the back of them all as Ulster respond. Cooney then puts them in front from a penalty. Crowley then, he kicks the ball off thinking he's kicking out for half time, but it's a goal line dropout, I think, for them. And so we end up coming back and Ulster have the ball, and then eventually McCann goes over to score from Ulster. So a bit of a error really from Crowley there, but you have to think about the rest of the team as well. Somebody should have told them like that not to kick it straight off the field. Into the second half then, Crowley steps his way through the defence, gives it off to Coombs, who goes close. Then Casey with just a great long pass out to Nash to score in the corner. Then Matty Ray barges his way over almost immediately for Ulster. It was a good period of the game here with tries going either way. Then Munster hit back within a couple of minutes. Casey with a great pickup from the ground, and then just instant pass out to Daly, and over he goes in the corner. Owen Clark then scores, and Munster, they drive them all over for the bonus point as they hit the lead. Crowley then lands a penalty to give them a bit of breathing space right at the end, and decent win for Munster in that one against an Ulster side who were very spirited. And Ulster, they've looked much improved since Richie Murphy took over. They've got the confidence back, and they've really got nothing to lose going into the playoffs. Then we have it was a bit of a mixed performance from Crowley for Munster, but I think sometimes we forget how young this guy is, and I think part of that is the fact that he's just so far ahead of the other 10s in terms of general performance in Ireland, and he's still learning his trade, and I think he's one as well that takes on those lessons really well. So the errors that he made today, you're going to see him learn from that a lot more than maybe other 10s would. Some 10s just have a habit of repeating, especially when pressure comes on, but Crowley seems to be a guy that pressure is when he wants to pressure, and he wants to perform under pressure to prove himself, and more often than not he does. Munster, the defending champions, they're a formed team, and they are really going into these knockouts. I think they're the ones to beat as well. The final game then of the round was Cardiff 29, Ospreys 23. So Nicky Smith over from close range for Ospreys early on. Then we have a nice move from Cardiff to put Cabango through a gap. He does well to finish then under pressure from Giles. Giles then with a nice step and offload to Edwards, who gives a pass out the back of his hands to Tipperick to score in the corner. And that's how this game was going, back and forth, back and forth. Evan Lloyd then with a nice run down the wing, great offload inside to Ben Thomas, dragged down just short of the line, pops the pass to Mason Grady, and over he goes to tie the game up. Ospreys then, they're camped on the line, and eventually Nicky Smith gets over to score. Ben Donnell goes to the bin as well. Ospreys then, with a scrum under the post, they go wide, and Luke Morgan scores their bonus point try. Thomas then with just some really great feet and offload then to Webb, as Cardiff not going away in this one. Seb Davis then gets a red card for a high tackle, another deserved red there as well, and you could see as well when it was going off, he knew like that he'd done something really stupid. Ospreys then awarded a penalty try. Thornton goes to the bin, and then Ospreys actually have Davies sent to the bin as well, as Cardiff are pushing for that final score of the game. Mason Grady shows good strength to finish in the corner, and it was a tight finish to the game, and Ospreys just about did it. Cardiff, they've looked good at times this season, especially in that first half of the campaign. They went off the boil for much of the second half, honestly, and then performances though, they picked up the last few rounds for them, so that's good. They've got a decent young squad packed with potential, but it's only going to remain potential if and until they can unlock it really and get those guys performing week in, week out, and not just kind of in spurts. So that's the big task, I think, for them next season. Ospreys, they've been the best Welsh region this year. They had like a very slim chance of actually making the playoffs in the last few rounds, but they did it. They got there, and that's absolutely brilliant from them. And now they've made it. It means that we've got at least one team from each of the URC nations in the playoffs for the first time, since we went to the URC. It's maybe a tall order for them to go any further in the playoffs, but even if they don't, like, this season has been a real success for them, and it doesn't feel like a one-off either. It feels like Ospreys are, kind of getting to a level that they haven't been to in many years. And, I think this is very exciting for the URC that, you've got the teams who've been there every season and are used to maybe making the playoffs, etc. And they're getting squeezed now by the teams who are on the up as well. So everyone's got to lift their game, and it means that the standards in the URC, they're going to drive each other to get better and better. And I think the competition is just going to go from strength to strength because of that. Okay, so we're going to have a quick look at the table. We're not going to talk about it as much as maybe we normally would. And then we'll have a look at the quarterfinal lineup as well. So top of the log, Munster, 68 points. Really good form got them up there as other teams kind of faltered. The Bulls in second place, brilliant for them. And, potentially they've now got the route to a final, which, if they can get there, maybe they can actually lift that trophy. Leinster in third place, the team of the top four who really, their form is going the opposite direction than the others. So they've got to find a way of, performing in the knockout stages. And it's got to be based around picking players on form and picking the best team, and not thinking about, we'll rest these players because if we get to the semi-final, then they'll be ready, and etc. For me, it's like, play who you think is the best team, and that's based on performance and form, and not based on how many Ireland caps they have or whatever, but play the best team in the quarterfinals. If some of them are too tired or they get injured or whatever, then you replace them for the next one if you get through. And then if the same happens there, then you replace guys for there. That's the way a squad, for me at least, a squad should work, is that you're looking at your players and you're going, okay, these are our best players, they play, and the rest of the squad are there that if we need them, we call on them, not the other way around. Next, then Glasgow in fourth place there, but on 65 as well, same as Leinster. And that just shows you how tight it was. That any one of those four could have finished top of the log or down in fourth place where Glasgow were. So each of those teams are going to be difficult to knock over in those quarterfinals, but you still got some decent teams coming up behind them, like the Stormers in fifth place there on 59 points, have made each of the finals in the URC. So to keep that run going, they're going to have to maybe win a couple of away games to do that, but you wouldn't back against them either. Ulster then, as I said, that bounce now with the new coaching team there in sixth place on 54. Benetton, really happy to see them in seventh place on 54. Same as Ospreys in eighth place on 50 points there as well. And then look how close it is behind them then. The Lions in ninth place on 50 points as well, but they miss out because Ospreys won 10 games to their 9. So it doesn't come down to points difference. You see, Ospreys are minus 35 and Lions are plus 128. It's first of all the number of wins the teams have, and Ospreys have 10 to 9, so therefore that's why they qualify. Edinburgh then in 10th place on 49 points. If they had have gotten like just a losing bonus point at that Benetton game, they would have been the ones qualifying ahead of Ospreys. Again, just shows how tight it is. Connacht then in 11th place on 45. The team that kind of fell away really towards the end there and left themselves, I think, too much to do in the last few rounds. Cardiff then in 12th place, the first kind of gap really that we're seeing in terms of, teams being close to each other on 32 points. Scarlets then in 13th place on 27, which means that the Sharks dropped down to 14th on 25 points, and then at the bottom two, 15th is Dragons on 16 points, and 16th and last is Zebre on 15 points. But as I said, they're gonna be much improved next year, so those teams above them have got to step their game up as well. Okay, so quick look at the quarterfinal matchups. We'll just say who they are because again we're going to do a preview anyway. So first of all, Friday, June the 7th, it's a 7:35 kickoff it's Munster versus Ospreys, so 1st versus 8th. This one's at Thomond Park and it's on RTE, Premier Sports as well. Saturday, June the 8th then, 2:30 kickoff. Vodacom Bulls versus Benetton, so 2nd versus 7th. It's at Loftus Versfeld, Premier Sport and TG Carr. Then 5 o'clock kickoff for Leinster versus Ulster, 3rd versus 6th, Aviva Stadium, Premier Sports and TG Carr. And then the final quarter-final is a 7:35 kickoff. It's Warriors versus Stormers, 4th versus 5th at Scottstown, and this one is on Premier Sports. Okay, so that's your lineup for the quarter-finals. Let me know how you think those are going to go, how you think teams did through the season as well, the regular season as it were. Who surprised you, who disappointed you, that kind of thing as well. And I'll see you guys on the next one.